My lead source tonight is a Republican who has been calling for her own party to do more when it comes to bringing down prices. Georgia Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene is here with me on Capitol Hill tonight, and thank you so much for being here. Can I first get your take on the federal judge's ruling saying that they've got to fund all of SNAP for these 42 million people who need it so desperately, obviously. Do you think that the ruling is absurd?
Well, I think it's the role of Congress, the House and the Senate, to fund the government. And I don't like I agree with the Vice President. I don't like the idea of judges taking over our role. However, to follow that up, I am absolutely appalled and disgusted at this standstill between Democrats and Republicans in the Senate. Caitlin, I voted to fund the government on September 18th. We passed the CR out of the House. And here it is today, November 6th, and this is still going on. And so it's true that the Democrats can fund the government, fund SNAP, and all of the programs at any time by voting for the same CR that they have voted for over and over. But at the same time, Republicans can use the nuclear option just like they did to get through the president's nominees. And they can go through the filibuster, and they can also fund the government. And I think this is hurting the American people. And I think it's hurting Congress and our ratings most of all.
Well, and we talk about these flight cancellation. Delta, obviously, in Atlanta, in your home state, has the biggest hub, the busiest airport in the world also. How worried are you about what it's going to look like for people starting tomorrow with these flight cancellations?
I think it's going to start looking like chaos, really. Many people are very worried about this. It's causing a lot of anxiety. Many people are already struggling, day to day, month to month with the cost of living. It has remained high. It was 9% inflation under Joe Biden in 2022. I give the Trump administration credit. They've kept it around 2.5% inflation, but that's still not helping Americans. And with this upcoming crisis with health insurance premiums skyrocketing, I think this is like a 5-alarm fire. And to me, it is incredibly embarrassing, and I find absolutely pathetic, really, that all of us are not here in Washington, D.C., working every single day to make sure that we can get the government open, but also solve the problem of affordability for the American people and come up with a good solution once and for all for health insurance.
Yeah, when the president says there's virtually no inflation and that grocery prices are going down, do you agree with him on that?
No, I go to the grocery store myself. Grocery prices remain high. Energy prices are high. My electricity bills are higher here in Washington, D.C. at my apartment, and they're also higher at my house in Rome, Georgia, higher than they were a year ago. So affordability is a problem, and I'm a mom. My kids are 22, 26, and 28. That's the generation I worry about the most, and they're having a very hard time. But when I go back home and I talk to many of my constituents, I'm hearing stories of not only are we having a really hard time affording groceries and rent and things like that, but I'm also hearing stories about people maxing out their credit cards just to afford their monthly expenses.
So when the president says that it's not that affordability hasn't been fixed, it's that people and Republicans aren't talking about it enough, that seemed to be a takeaway of his from Tuesday night's elections. Mm-hmm. You disagree with that sentiment? I
think Tuesday was definitely a referendum on how leaders in this country are leading. And I believe in America First policies. That's why I campaigned for President Trump and have supported him as long as I have, and I do support him. But I want all of my colleagues to come through in action in supporting America First policies. And I think the American people showed that on Tuesday. You're not going to convince them to go to the polls and vote by bailing out Argentina. And you're not going to convince them to go to the polls and vote by continuing to fund foreign wars and foreign countries and foreign causes. You're going to get them to go to the polls and vote when you show up to work and actually fix the problems that they face every single day.
And so, one thing that the president said there, and I'm sure a bunch of your constituents and a bunch of people in Georgia shop at Walmart and go there. Mm-hmm. The president keeps talking about the Walmart Thanksgiving meal where they put everything together that you buy for the holiday, that it's less expensive under him than it was under President Biden. But actually, when you look at it, it's because it has fewer items in it, and they're the Great Value brand. They're generic store brand. They're not, name brand.
Right.
Do you think that he is getting good information from those around him, or what do you think it is why he keeps repeating something that's not true?
Well, I think every president, no matter who they are basically in a cone of information by the people that they have working for them and are around them. So that could be the case here. And certainly I'll give credit to Walmart for offering lower prices. Americans definitely need that, and I'm sure the president was proud to talk about it.
When it comes to the government shutdown, you've talked about Democrats, you talked about the House passing the CR. Do you agree with the president that Republicans are bearing more of the blame than Democrats, it seems?
I do, because Americans know that Republicans control the House and the Senate, and they're looking and going, well, why are you shut down? And also, I'll go back to this. Senate Republicans can use the nuclear option and override the filibuster and open up this country today. And so I put blame on both Republicans and Democrats for basically Caitlin, I can't say it on CNN, but it's basically a you-know-what measuring contest between the men in leadership, and I think the country is sick and tired of it.
Well, on that front, you said something the other day that caught my eye. You said that there's a lot of weak Republican men in Congress. Who exactly are you referring to?
Many of my colleagues. I campaigned with President Trump and all over the country for years, really, and hardly any of them truly supported President Trump. But when it became clear that he was going to win, they ran out and bought their first MAGA hat and put it on. But I think we're seeing what's happening, and I like Mike Johnson a lot. He's a very nice man. But forcing Congress to stay home when the American people are showing up and working every single day, and now going to have to start dealing with flight delays, and women and children aren't getting WIC, and these SNAP recipients aren't getting their SNAP benefits, and federal workers are not getting paid. Even the Capitol Police that escort myself and others through the airport for security reasons, they're not getting paid. The list goes on and on and on. I do believe that when you have the responsibility of leadership, you need to take that very seriously. And unfortunately, I'm not seeing that right now.
Speaker Mike Johnson actually addressed your criticism of him today in an interview. I want you to listen to what he had to say about this.
I'm not unaccustomed to hearing criticism from Marjorie. We have intense fellowship, as we see in the Deep South, Stephen. And she knows I've got an open door. She can come in and talk with me anytime. But, she goes on these shows. She likes to get the big interviews, and that's fine. Everybody has the right, But I will tell you this. I'm in constant contact with all the House Republicans. And the reason we've not brought them back yet is because we did our job.
I heard from the speaker today, and he asked me if I wanted to talk about health insurance policy ideas. I said yes, and I said I'll have my staff reach out to yours and find some time on your schedule. Unfortunately, they replied back he's not available until next week. I'm not here in Washington next week. I have talked with him through text messages and on our weekly conference calls. We have a weekly conference call. But my demand to my speaker that I voted for, so I think I get to make these demands, is that he brings our House back into session. We get back to work on our committees, passing our bills, passing the agenda the American people voted for, and return to business. But also, I want a health insurance policy plan for this country. Democrats passed the ACA back in 2010. They passed the tax credits in 2021. They're expiring now, and every single American can tell you health insurance is absolutely unaffordable, and it's a crisis. And so I will continue to demand these plans. People push back on me and say, why don't you introduce a bill yourself? I certainly can do that, but the only person that brings the bills to the floor is the Speaker of the House, and every member of Congress will tell you that we've got stacks of bills that we would love to get a vote. And I don't think that would solve anything.
Do you have healthcare policy proposals to bring to Mike Johnson?
I've been spending the last month talking to many experts in the field, but Mike Johnson keeps saying that he's got pages and pages of policy ideas. He tells that to the press every single day. Well, he hasn't presented any of those to our conference, and everyone knows that there is no way to pass a package of bills or even one bill unless you build consensus among your members, and that hasn't happened yet.
He told us when we had him on the show a few weeks ago that if the government reopened tomorrow, and this was 2 weeks ago probably, that Republicans would have a health care plan. Do you believe that?
No, because I haven't seen it yet.
And earlier you praised former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi to my colleagues, Wolf Blitzer and Pamela Brown. It might surprise a lot of people to hear you praise her time as Speaker. Do you think Speaker Johnson fights as hard for your side as she fought for hers?
You know, I praised her because she did fight for her side. Do I agree with her? No. Did I vote for her bills? I did not. However, I respect her greatly because she accomplished more for her party than I've seen our Speaker accomplish for ours.
Been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the they're doing.